Hi there, and welcome to the latest foray in online learning for me, which is a video. I hope that what you get out of this will be good, but please understand that this is new to me, so hopefully I won't mess it up too badly. Tonight we're going to be talking about the process we use for one-on-one conversations. And as you learned on Saturday, these processes are pretty critically important in terms of being able to ensure that we provide the support that our patrol members need when they've been involved in a critical incident. So the material that's covered here, there will also be a link to that material so that you can actually download the slides that I'm going to be using shortly. And so you don't need to take a whole lot of notes because the slides will be available. So if you have questions, please write them down as you're watching. And on Monday, between 5:30 and 6, we'll be doing a Q&A session where you can bring some of those questions to us. So this is going to be our introduction to individual interactions and the process that we use for those interactions. So we're going to talk first about the features and benefits of an individual interaction. They're somewhat less structured, but you still have to follow a certain process to make sure that we get through all the information that we're trying to get from the people we're trying to help. It's a very conversational thing, so it's not something that is terribly structured, other than there are going to be three steps that we'll talk about on the next slide. It's focused on the person you're talking to rather than being focused on anything outside of that. So it's a one-on-one. It's like having a conversation with somebody. For people who are really quiet, this is a really comfortable space for them, especially if you're going to have to do a diffusing or if it's already taken place. It gives them an opportunity to make sure that they get their voice heard. It's a very personal conversation, so keep that in mind. And please also remember that this is very non-operational. It's non-judgmental and non-operational. You're not making any judgments on anything. Here's an overview of the three-step process that we use. So the first step is introduction, and the purpose of that is to kind of stabilize things and just get everybody fairly comfortable with what's going on. So the person who is conducting the chat, in other words, the one who's calling, would explain why they're calling. And it can be, we'll get into some sort of sample questions shortly, but it's just an individual thing that you will find your own voice on explaining how you're calling. You want to stress that it's confidential and that this conversation won't be repeated to anyone else. The second portion of this three-step process is to explore. So you want to sort of get some acknowledgement, and you want to facilitate their understanding. So you're going to be asking questions and trying to get the person to open up a bit to you on how they're feeling. And the third process is to educate and inform, which the purpose of which is to normalize and teach them how to cope with what's happened. So the first step in this process is to introduce, and the purpose of that, as we said, is to stabilize. So you want to introduce yourself, you want to find out about them, and you want to make sure that they are A-okay where they are. In other words, they're not driving in their car or doing something. You want to make sure that they are, you're not meeting with them, whether it's over the phone or in a location. You don't want to go to a pub or a bar or anything like that. You want to be someplace that's safe if you're one-on-one, and on the phone, you want to make sure that they're okay to talk with you right now. Again, you want to stress that confidentiality. So during the introduction, when you introduce yourself, you can pick how you introduce yourself to yourself, because these are just sample questions, and you have to develop your own voice and your own comfort level. So, for example, you could say, "Hi, my name's Maggie, and I'm a member of the Canadian Canadian Ski Patrol Critical Incident Stress Team, or whatever you want to say. You want to explain why you're approaching them and why you're talking to them. So obviously they've been involved in something, and so you'd want to relay to them that that's why you're approaching them, or that's why you're calling them. If somebody has asked you to call this person, use their name to make sure that they know that you have a reason for calling. And again, you also want to make sure that they know that whatever they say to you will not be repeated to anyone for any reason. And just that you may be actually reporting back that you have had this conversation with them to whoever it was who referred them to you. The second part of our process is explore. And this is the part where we do the acknowledgement of what happened, who, what, when, that kind of thing, or the event or the story. So we want to try not to focus on any whys or hows, because these are the things that tend to be operational in nature and tend to lead to judgment statements either on their part or yours. So you just want to stick with the facts of what happened, not why or how. And you want to listen carefully to the responses and what this person is saying to you about their reactions or their assessment of reactions of others. But really, this is about them, just them. So when you're trying to acknowledge, sometimes, I think as we talked about on Saturday, sometimes people are very willing to talk and they will tell you everything that you need to know with very little prompting. Other times, you do have to ask some probing questions if that information isn't forthcoming. So you can, if you need a place to start, you can always invite them to tell you about that particular incident. So something like, tell me what happened this afternoon from where you were, or from where you were sitting, or from your perspective. And if they don't really seem to have a whole lot to say, you can also start to ask some gentle, we'll call them probing questions, if they don't talk. So what happened after you got off autopilot? What happened after the EMS arrived? Were you alone? Who else was around? Those kinds of questions can be helpful because it will allow them to think about it and to give some responses. So again, we're talking about just the facts. We're not talking about the specifics around what was done. So the next part of our exploration, we're going to do a little bit of an overview, and then we're going to get into it a little more in detail. So this really is where we want to get people to talk about their emotions and help them understand that any event such as this is going to have an impact of some sort. So this is the time when you want to use all those communication skills from Saturday when we talked about paraphrasing and that kind of communication work that we did. So you're going to want to try and paraphrase what they said, normalize the feelings that they talk about and their reactions, and attribute those reactions, make sure that they are attributable to the situation and that it's got nothing to do with them, that they are normal. There's a couple of sample questions on the slide that you're looking at now. And again, these are just samples. So you're trying to identify what's bothering them, or what they're feeling now, or what stands out for them, what they're thinking about. And you're going to want to investigate whether they're having any symptoms already. Oftentimes this occurs very soon after the incident. So you don't want a whole lot of time to have gone by before you actually have this conversation with them. And once again, it's worth noting that you have to develop your own voice. Some of these questions may not be comfortable for you, but trying to get the information that is in the questions that are here is kind of important. So it's up to you how you say it. We just want to make sure that you cover this kind of material. So a few more pieces of our exploration is to make sure that they don't have any questions for you. So they may have questions about what's next. They may have questions about all kinds of things. And you need to try and answer those questions as best you can. But you also need to check and make sure how they're doing right at this moment. So is there anything they need from you? For example, if you're still at the ski hill, are they okay to drive themselves home? Do they have friends that they could give a call to and have a chat with about what happened today? Because as we all learned on Saturday, talking about these situations is a good thing. So in this third segment of educate and inform, you want to normalize and cope is sort of the buzzword. So we want to make sure that they realize that what's happened to them and the reactions that they're having and the emotions that they are feeling are very normal, and that they are absolutely something that most people would feel after an incident. So nothing is out of the norm, because this is a reaction to a very unusual and difficult situation. And so anything goes. So you can sort of identify some stress management tools if they would like to have those. Some of those techniques are things like managing their time, trying to ensure good nutrition, avoiding things that they know stress them out particularly. Lots of relaxation should occur, and that physical exercise is actually good. And then you want to sort of identify some of the coping strategies that might be beneficial for them. So some of the things that you could share with them are to identify some of the possible reactions that might occur. Things like, you may find it a bit difficult to concentrate on complex tasks today or even tomorrow. And please remember that whatever you are feeling is normal and things are okay. You're not different. You're not reacting in a bad way. Everybody's reaction is based on their own personal experience. And remember, we did that stress test at the beginning, and we talked a little bit about, I guess it was the beginning on Saturday, and we talked a little bit about how the baggage you bring to the ski hill has an impact on you. So whatever is happening in your personal life can have an impact on how you react to things. Well, it's the same for everyone. And so where they started off the day may have been a difficult day already for them. So you just don't know. And that's why you want to ask lots of questions. In this educate and inform, we also want to investigate some healthy coping strategies. So things like talking to their friends and family and what they eat and whether or not they're getting sleep, and using some general exercise things to help them out. We also want to warn of excesses of anything. So you don't want to drink too much, smoke too much, have too much caffeine. It's all about balance, and you really want to try and encourage them to try and make sure that they are getting enough of the things they need, but not overdoing it on anything. And you want to encourage them to talk to their family, their friends, anybody that is sort of close to them, and somebody they're comfortable with, because that will be helpful for them. Once again, you got to look for your own voice. Don't use our examples, but come up with ones that fit you and who you are. Encouraging routine is good too, and reasonable activities. So going out for dinner with your friends is a good activity to do. It's something that's normal. And your regular routine may be a little bit impacted by this. So you need to try and make sure that they understand that keeping a normal routine is really good and healthy for them. So, for example, if they usually get up at 7 in the morning, get up at 7. If they usually have a good breakfast, have a good breakfast. If they usually get to work at home or wherever they're working, tell them to do it at the usual time. You're going to want to provide some direction on what happens next. You should give them your phone number and make yourself available if they would like to call you. And so give them your phone number and tell them that they're welcome to phone at any time. And then you also should try and follow up with them. In other words, find a time that works for you both within the next day or so to call back and just check in with them and see which time works for them. So arranging a time when you can get back in touch is a good thing to do. The next steps might be things like a diffusing. So if there were a large number of people involved and people determine that they would like to get together as a group and talk about this, you should let them know at this time that there may be a need for a group diffusing. And so you want to encourage them to be a part of that if that takes place. They should also know that if their symptoms continue, that it's perfectly reasonable and that they should get in touch with their doctor if the symptoms do continue over a long period of time. So, welcome back to my face. Hope that you got something out of this. As I said before, the link for being able to download all of these slides so that you can have them will be given on Monday. So if you can view this video as few or as many times as you'd like if you need a little bit more information. And I look forward to seeing you on Monday night. Have a great rest of your weekend.